I was a sheep until this stroke. And after the stroke, honestly, my eyes were open. And I'm like, man, I should just do my own thing. And I jumped into entrepreneurship and never looked back. But they never know. They keep going through life like a sheep, like a zombie.
Yeah, it's because it's easy to do that.
You're right.
Easy to be told what to do.
And it's comfortable. Comfort never brings success.
Comfortable but miserable at the same time in the back of your mind. A well-fed slave is a well-fed slave. You always vie, like a gladiator, you always vie for your freedom, even if it's going to be a little bit choppy.
Hi, baby. Hop in the Lamborghini, I'm meaty, on me only, I'm meaty, hi baby, hop in the Lamborghini,
left for a minute, I did not sweat it, look at the cash I spent it, there it goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Stroke of Success podcast. I'm your host, KB, and today's guest is someone special. It's a gentleman with me today. I've been following him for about 2 to 3 years. I've been after him for a few years as well, but of course, everyone has their time and process. He finally said yes to me, which I appreciated very much. Let me give you a little background. This gentleman here has founder of PC laptops, Zydex. How do I pronounce that?
Zydex.
Got it. Say it again.
Zydex.
That's an amazing name. And the ugly unicorn crypto hedge fund. Interesting. He's a multiple year Inc. 500 winner and being AMD Gaming Advisor Council. And you serve on the Intel Board of Advisors for 16 years. Dan, you look young, so I don't know when you got started. So with that being said, welcome Dan Young to my podcast.
Thank you.
Dan, let's get started, my friend. That's an amazing resume. You look like you're in your 30s, my friend, but I know you're not. Thanks. I've seen your kids. Your kids are growing up. I think your daughter's married, correct?
Son's married.
That's son's married. I remember that on social media. Look, I follow you, man. I researched you. Let's get started, Dan. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Los Angeles, California, to immigrant parents who escaped World War II in China when they were being invaded. And luckily, they landed in Los Angeles and had me, and we had a good time. Yeah.
Okay. How was LA born and raised back then? Because compared to now, it's very different. How was it for you?
People are people, man. So everything is cyclical. You have LA's always been kind of a melting pot of people. It's very diverse. But a great opportunity there. A lot of poverty there, a lot of wealth there, a lot of in between. So I think it's great growing up. Sometimes in a big city, it's got its own share of problems.
Sure. There's a huge Asian community there. There's a huge Indian community there. I'm from Pakistan, so I have a lot of Pakistani friends there. My parents are from Pakistan, born in New York, but so I'm also born in a big city as well. And that's one thing I love. You have Russians, you have all this Mexicans. There's a huge group of people from outside of America.
Mm-hmm.
Right. All right. So your parents, when they got here, were they entrepreneurs? Were they working corporate jobs? Rich, poor, middle class?
Dirt poor. My dad was a janitor for General Motors and had a part-time gig with the U.S. Army doing art. Okay. And then my mom was a bank teller. So pretty humble means, we didn't really have a whole bunch when we were young, but it was a happy childhood for the most part.
So a lower middle class, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that to poor sometimes. It depends on what was happening.
Yeah. So question: how were you in school? I mean, from what I can take, you were probably really good with like math and science.
When I was younger, I was good with school. To probably junior high, and then I got interested in girls and hanging out with my friends and just doing ridiculous stuff. So
yeah.
Then my grades went to like D's and F's.
Yeah. So being from an Asian background, isn't there a pressure to become a doctor, a lawyer, and an accountant? The typical three.
Yeah, like my sister has a master's degree, my brother has a master's degree, all my cousins have master's degree. 4.0 went to USC, UCLA, Irvine, and they're all geniuses. I didn't really inherit that, but I did inherit an ability from my mother to just hang out with people and find out what their problems are and listen and, and try to be a little more charismatic,
So you were good at sales, you think? Communication?
Sales, communication, influence, leadership, that kind of thing. When it came to the, nuts and bolts of academics, computers, obviously I was really good at, but everything else that I didn't have an interest in, like political science and American history and all that, I didn't really care. I still don't really care about that.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to the University of Utah for a little bit, and community college for a little bit. Met my wife there, and then after we hit the Inc. 500 in 2002, we were the 286th fastest growing company, privately held company in America. I did a program at Stanford and got a Stanford graduate degree, which was crazy, but that wasn't from academic skill,
Okay.
It was from entrepreneurial skill.
So you went to school, college. Okay. When did you find out that you have this entrepreneurial spirit inside of you?
It was back actually in high school because I worked at Venice Beach. I set together a sunglass stand. And so, we like to party and hang out with girls and friends and stuff. And so I asked these girls if they would put on roller skates and bikinis and roll up to couples and go, "Hey, do you need some sunglasses?" Because it's right at the beach.
Right.
And we would buy them for like $2 and we would sell them for $10. Or if you bought 2 pairs for 15, and we would make $1,000 something a day.
Wow.
So, we just bought like wine coolers and food and all that kind of stuff. And there was no shortage of employees because they would work for wine coolers and hot dogs and things.
So this is what, you're 18, 19?
This when I was 15.
15. So you got into it pretty early. $1,000 a day after cost, everything, probably pocket 800, 700 probably.
Back then, you would just pocket it all, yeah. After your cost of goods.
Wow.
But it was really fun though. I mean, it's something I enjoyed. I got the beach, got the sun, got the drinks, got the girls. It was got a car, bought a Camaro, bought a BMW M3. I was really happy.
Wow, back then.
Yeah, it was great. Didn't even have a driver's license.
How'd you do that, man?
I had some relatives buy it and some friends, and they would hold the title, and I just drive it.
That's insane. So you're a bit of a rebel, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a non-conformist, though. I think our education now system teaches control and conformity, and and that's why in America now you see so many people getting stuck in the system. And with inflation and all those kind of things, man, if you're stuck in the system, you're going to be impoverished. And I don't like to see that. I like to see people really be the best they can be.
That's true. I agree with you. It's interesting enough. I was born and raised in this country. I got my MBA undergrad in poli-sci, MBA in marketing. And then I had my stroke in 2017. And that was my eye opener. I was in a coma for 1 week and didn't almost make it. When I woke up, went back to my company called Zool. They made the mini PCs. The company let me go. It was the best thing. At that time, it was the worst thing, but it was the best thing. And my eye opened. I was a sheep. Like your good friend Sean Whelan's brand, Lions Not Sheep. I was a sheep until this stroke. After the stroke, honestly, my eyes were open. And I'm like, man, I should just do my own thing. And I jumped into entrepreneurship and never looked back. But you know what? I had to have a stroke. A lot of people, and unfortunately, I hope they don't get strokes or have, major setbacks. But they never know. They keep going through life like a sheep, like a zombie, right?
It's because it's easy to do that.
You're right.
Easy to be told what to do,
And it's comfortable, right? It's very comfortable, right? And then, Danny, you know that, and I know that comfort never brings success.
Comfortable but miserable at the same time in the back of your mind. Again, a well-fed slave is a well-fed slave, and you always vie like a gladiator. You always vie for your freedom, even if it's going to be a little bit choppy,
That's a good way to put it. Because and I both know that entrepreneurship is very choppy. So let's talk about your journey, man.
Yeah.
You like cars, which I'm going to get to that. I love your car collection and your taste in cars. But what was the next move after that, after college? You got a corporate job or you start doing your own thing?
Well, what happened is when I was in LA, I started hanging out with those friends, and we started getting pretty rowdy, with all our money and stuff like that. So I got in huge trouble. I went to juvenile hall. It's like for minors. It's like jail for minors for 6 months.
Oh, no way.
It was pretty bad. So when I got out, uh, the judge said, "Hey, you didn't do anything. You're just hanging around the wrong crowd." I'm like, okay. So my sister was an academic advisor at the university in Utah. So I moved in with her. She let me live there for a month, and then I just got to work, man. I started doing telemarketing. I was selling carpet cleaning. It was part time, like working at a car lot. I was trying everything to try to figure it out. And so the big catalyst came is when I worked in a Radio Shack in the mall, Radio Shack. And I met this old man, and he wanted me to fix his ham radio, and I fixed it. And he said, "Dude, I appreciate that, kid. Can I take you to lunch, man? Maybe I can give you some advice on how to make more money." And I'm like, "I'd love to make more money." I was making like 17,000 a year. It was terrible, right? So we went to lunch, and I said, what do you do, man?" And he goes, "Well, I sold my tech company for $2.8 billion, and now I just play with my radio and play video games." Okay, and walk around the mall for exercise. And so he mentored me, and within 3 years, I made my first $1 million. So it was crazy, and he's still my friend today.
So I'm sure he's much older than you are, right? I mean,
Yeah, very old.
wow. Dan, what year was this that you met him?
90, 91?
91.
1991, right there. Yeah.
Dan,
I'm 52 now.
oh wow. God bless you. Look great, man. I would not I never guess that. But Dan, the Radio Shack, by the way, do you believe in law of attraction, Dan?
Yeah, I believe in those things, manifestation, law of attraction, those kind of things. But the one thing he told me is you can manifest all you want and take God's gift that he gave you, but if you don't execute, you're not going anywhere.
100%.
God isn't going to be like, here's a bag of $10 million, man, enjoy. You put the opportunity, but it's already all around you, whether you're working in the mall or selling t-shirts, the opportunity is there. It's just, again, you can't get confined, and great religious leaders, I'm not super religious, but great religious leaders through all time were rebels. Like people wanted to kill them, because they thought they were crazy, and they just didn't want to they wanted to set their own tone, of what they saw, which is cool.
That's true. So my belief in law of attraction did this book that came out with years ago, Secret, that, if you visualize it, you affirm it, it'll come, but they missed a big component. And to your point, you take action. You do everything else, the vision board and all these exercises, you do them, but you must take action. And something you said right now and touch on is super, super crucial. It's always around us. The RAS, I think it's called reticular activating system in the system mind. It's the philosophy behind that. It's like the answer is in front of you, but you have to train your mind to look for it. So the Radio Shack thing, did you ever in your mind say, I want to be a millionaire, I want to make this much money, and like you manifested, or was that's like a coincidence for you, like you meeting him?
It started because when we were poor, I remember my mom and dad had a lot of bills and a lot of debt. And when I was little, I was like 5 years old, and my mom and dad used to pray for hours over these bills, and she'd be crying over these bills. And I said to myself, this is never going to happen, So I remember when I started selling those t-shirts back then, I handed her $4,000 in cash. I go, "Mom, hey, get whatever you need." And she was like, "Did you steal this?" And I'm like, "No, I was selling sunglasses." She's like, "This is going to make a huge difference." And so I remember she filled the fridge. She went to the grocery store, filled the fridge with really good food, and just cooked all this Chinese food and stuff. And so I would help her since then. And even when in their older age, they were never really good with money. I remember the proudest moment I had is when they retired bankrupt. They had nothing, and they were going to go on government assistance. And then I said, "Mom, hey, I'm going to fly you out with Dad here to Park City, Utah." And I handed them the keys and the title to a BMW X5, because my dad always had a picture on the wall of the X5. And then I bought him a house in Park City, and they lived there for like 20 years in their retirement. So it made me feel good because they never cried again about money. They had everything they needed. So it was,
That's
and
an
they
amazing story.
got to spend so much time with them. It's great.
That's a sweet story, man. Wow. Dan, you have brothers and sisters?
Brother, sister.
And what I mean, they're good in life.
My brother is a genius. His IQ is double than mine, but he doesn't like to take risk, you know. Um, and my sister though is super entrepreneur. She opened a big medical clinic and she sold it like 5 years ago, and now her and her husband just travel the world. And I think she's much more wealthy than I am actually, because
Really?
the clinic was crazy. And then my brother, we had a little bit of tension because he always thought mom always spoiled you because I was the youngest one. And so when we got some inheritance money, my sister and I said, hey, let's just give that to my brother. And so we gave him the whole inheritance and he was freaking out. He goes, you guys have these strings attached? I'm like, no, you can have money. We don't need money. And he was like, wow. And so that broke down the bond because he always thought, oh, Dan's all about money. Audrey's all about money, my sister, you know. But then he realized, wait, they're actually nice people.
Yeah.
You know.
That's so sweet, man. That's very big of you guys to do that. But it's like a abundance mindset, right? You have enough. You're good, man. You're more than enough. You're good and
Plenty, yeah.
plenty. Okay. So you moved to Utah. 3 years. You made a lot of money. What was the next step after that? What happened? What's the journey?
Well, then I just wanted to be better, you know. So I continued to scale the companies. I started PC laptops, Zydex, and then I was still on this quest to help people with their problems. And so that's why I joined the Intel board and, all these different things. And all these executives, they seem untouchable because they're working for, trillion-dollar companies, but they have problems. And my job is to solve those problems. And so we solved a lot of those problems. And that's how we started getting big accounts like Google, Amazon, because in Silicon Valley, they poach from, so all these younger people I met back in the 90s now became executive vice presidents, CEOs of these big, tech companies. And they don't forget that. Someone who helped them when they were younger, and I was younger, taught them how to invest and things like that. So that was big. And then finally, it comes to one of my biggest projects today is the Ugly Unicorn. It's a crypto hedge fund. In 2014, we sell computers. So I was sitting on millions of dollars in inventory, and the professor from the university, one of my friends, he's like, hey, I want to buy 50 computers for my students. We got a little money. I'm okay. What are you doing? He's like, we're going to explore this thing called blockchain. We're going to mine Bitcoin. And he goes, you should do it too, since you got you got inventory, So I built the biggest Bitcoin mining facility in Utah in 2014. And then it was kind of crazy. In 2017, my wife told me we should take some of these profits because we made more doing that than selling computers, And so I sold 75% of my Bitcoin because it was about 19,000, but we were in at $120 a Bitcoin. So it was like crazy. And that's where my old mentors, they told me to buy commercial real estate. So I bought a bunch of buildings and stuff. Yeah.
You regret selling Bitcoin at that time?
Hmm?
You regret selling Bitcoin? But it went higher than that eventually, right?
No, I don't, because Bitcoin's like what, like 30 G's now, right? 34 G, actually 34 today.
Yeah.
But real estate bought in 2017 has went up a lot more than Bitcoin has.
Insane.
And it's not as volatile. It's very boring, but it's cash flow. So it saved my butt a lot of times. But this hedge fund is crazy because I met this guy from one of my other mentors. His name is John Pennington, and he has a hedge fund that does real estate. So
wow.
His fund is over $48 billion today. And he retired, and he said to me, I said to him, will you 50-50 partner with me on a project? He goes, no, dude, I'm just retired. But my son knows how to do hedge funds, and I've taught him since he was little, and you get me for free, and you couldn't afford me. So he goes, just go 50-50 with my son. And so the first week we raised $10 million, and it's crazy. And then now, we are where we are today with the hedge fund. So it's super fun because I can help people from my experience, because a lot of guys in crypto have only done it for a few years, and they're just like traders. We're not traders. And so it's been pretty good. So that's been fun.
So dude, you're retired. Somebody retired, right?
No, there's still handfuls of problems, like one of our company does 50 million something a year, but a lot of people think if you sell 50 million, you make 50 million. But if you have staffing and overhead, you can lose money some years, you know? So just like Tesla or Amazon, you know, sometimes you lose money, man. But I'm looking at the long-term picture of building infrastructure and profitability. Well, I don't think I'll retire as long as my brain works, you know.
Talk to me about your exotic car journey. I mean, the one time you did this reel on Instagram, I loved it. I just saved it too. Yeah, if you're from your first exotic car to your latest one, like you want to share some of the cars you got.
Yeah, so cars, I have pretty much, you know, everything, Lambos and Ferraris and all that stuff. And cars really don't excite me now. I mainly buy them for marketing purposes, and then also profitability. So a lot of these vehicles now it's harder because the economy is weird. But when the economy is hot, there's a big demand. People will pay over the retail value that you can buy it for if you can buy it for a sticker. Well, that's why I went through so many cars and I just stick them on Instagram. The kids like them. But then when the kids get in front of us we do a free event, you know, called Cars and Coin.
Yeah.
And we have these different mentors teach. And the cool thing about that is the cars are in the tractor, but then they realize the cars really mean nothing at the end of the day. They're just a car, man. Or it's inventory, you know. But my favorite car is the Tesla Plaid.
I know.
I got a couple of them. Yeah. I
We
love
talk about
those
that quite a bit.
because you don't have to go to the gas station.
Yeah. My in-laws have just bought a Tesla. They're over right now, and I have to find a spot for them to get a charge done. So I'm gonna get them in my garage. But but the Plaid is something else, man. The Plaid, I think it beats like Lambos and Ferraris, right? That's what I heard from you. I never knew that until I saw your page. You talked about it.
You know, and all the guys that they like to say, well, it doesn't have the sound and the smell. And I'm like, people say that about horses, man. Why should I get a car? It doesn't have the sound and smell. You can't see the poop, you know? I'm like, you know.
That's a good point, man.
Life evolves, man.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So awesome, man. So your kids are older, right?
Yeah.
Just you and your wife.
Yeah.
Is your wife very much involved? Seems like she is in the businesses and everything you guys are doing.
Big picture. Sell this, buy that, put cash reserves here, pay this off. You know, she's like always been, and this is not necessarily good advice, but she's like, just pay off all the properties. We feel good about it. You'll appreciate it later. So like when we had good years, we did a lot, you know, and I was really happy when things went really tough, you know. Got a little extra buffer, you know. So a good spouse is probably the most important thing to career success.
Let's talk about that. That's my next question for you. And I totally agree. I've been with the same woman for 20 years now, and I owe her everything, like everything. And thank God she's good over here. But like, I'm sure you meet a lot of entrepreneurs, millionaires, probably in your circle, billionaires too. And some of them are divorced, some of them are just a mess at home. How important do you think, Dan, is the peace in your household, in your marriage? How important is that in correlated to business entrepreneurship?
Well, here's the thing: is the number one cause of wealth loss is not a bad trade or investment or business; it's divorce, right?
I heard
you
that.
lose more wealth because it screws up your mind and it cuts your money in half, plus legal. So it probably cuts you down 75%, you know. So really, if you're going to commit and get married to somebody, you want to typically make sure they fit the traits in the beginning, do some diligence, you know. And it's not necessarily going to be the most exciting woman in the world that's super extravagant and all that, but that's typically what you don't want. You want someone who's just stable, you know, they can be healthy mentally, spiritually, and not dependent on material items for their pure happiness. Now, they like money, that's cool, but that's not their driver, you know. And that's the same thing with friends too. It's not purely just materialistic things. And if you surround yourself by that, and you're hanging out with your wife a lot because she lives at home with you, right? So that's the most important thing. Just find someone who's stable and that can support you through thick and thin. And it's better if you meet your wife when you're dirt poor. You know, because when you're rich, man, like it's easy to find a wife.
I agree with you. I was 21. I had no money in my pocket at that time, and I met her. But you're 100% right. Like you're right, man. Like again, I'm from Brooklyn. I went to Miami and let's spend a lot of time in Miami, Florida. I'm sure you've been there. Miami, Florida, the new hub for entrepreneurs. Everyone's going there. Crypto people are going there, and a lot of shiny objects in Miami. A lot. And I was there recently interviewing three other entrepreneurs face to face, and it's distracting and distracting. But you said it. Two things I picked up from you right now. A, don't go for the shiny objects, right? Because they're just shiny. And number two, get a partner in your life, in your corner, your running mate. That's not going to be depending. Their happiness should not depend on the necklace, the car, the jewelry, the trips. Because that's super important. You have to be whole here.
That's important. Yeah, I don't even like traveling and extravagant trips. I did that when I was like in my 20s, and 30s.
Yeah.
And once you see the whole world, you've seen the whole world. I mean, and it's like, and you send in cars and mansions and all of that. I mean, after a while, it's just maintenance. And you can be just as happy having a conversation like us talking now, even virtually, is much more fulfilling to me than spending $100,000 on vacation, private jet, and all that garbage. Who cares? It's just all extra waste. It doesn't do anything for me, unless it's an experience with your children, and they're seeing things they haven't seen, snow, Japan with leaves and lilies and things, and then you can enjoy beauty. But once you've seen it, you've seen it.
You've seen everything probably right now, right? I mean, you've been running.
Not everything, but a lot of things, and
a lot of things.
But I don't have any urge to like extravagantly do anything really. And people go, that's kind of weird, Dan. Are you not motivated? And it's just like, it doesn't bring me a deeper sense of fulfillment. Deeper conversations building things does, helping people, much more fulfilling. And this didn't change until I turned maybe like mid 40s. And I realized that you can't take any of this stuff with you anyway. So
then I learned that about you from social media too. Like you never, I know you're pretty well to do. Obviously you shared your story with us so far, but you never ever show yourself on a selfie video on a yacht or in private planes and stuff. Is that like, are you religious? Are you spiritual? Do you have like a deep connection with the higher power, universe?
I'm not religious, but I believe in God and a creator of all things. But he created the initial, I believe he created or she or whoever it is, the energy being, created the initial matter of the universe. And we're given a certain amount of, control temporarily for maybe 100 years max, And so that gift, whatever we do with that gift, an opportunity, is what makes us. And the only way we can truly live forever on this planet, as long as humans are alive, is to educate and teach people from experience. That's the only way. Because then they can tell their children and their friends and their students, just like Star Wars, like being a Jedi,
Yeah, I see. I see you're big into education and helping people. You have a podcast, right? You talk a lot about that. I think I reached out to you for coaching. You like, go to my podcast for now, and then you share a lot of good stuff in your podcast. You still have that going on, Dan?
Yeah, the podcast, not as much now. I mean, I had most of the guests that I wanted. I wasn't big on getting like these mastermind gurus too much on there. A lot of guys make money selling education and courses, which is great. But I was more interested in getting like business operators, so not as much motivating people, but actual functional, like how do you run a restaurant business? How do you run a real estate business? So it's actual practical application though, because a lot of times, a lot of these guys spend a lot of time just like getting people pumped up, which is important to be pumped up, but like the money doesn't really come in, or the success doesn't come in until you start executing, right?
100%. 100%. Well, how old were you when the money's great, making, part of my French, shitloads of money, but you know what? It's more than life, just the money. When did you hit that? Mid 40s. Okay.
Yeah.
Insane.
Because you realize you're immortal. Like your blood pressure gets high. The doctor's like, you got to lose weight. You have some health stuff coming up, and you got to focus on these things. And you realize this, man, I'm not unstoppable, like physically. So now your time is limited. Then you realize you have a clock, you know?
Yeah. I recently hired a mentor to teach me some stuff. It's high level stuff. And other day he sat with me. He said, "Hey KB, think of yourself as person one, and person two is your best version of yourself walking in the room right in front of you, and tell me three emotions that person has." And I'm like, okay, let me think about it. He goes, it's supposed to be hard. So it took me like a little bit of time to think about it. Okay, I'm like, got it. The best version of me walking in there right now is going to be cool, calm, collective, unfazed. What was the third one? Oh, an abundance mindset. And talking to you, I feel like you have all three of these, like in business, you've been running for, when I say running, you're running a business for 20 years in the game, probably more than that now, huh, Dan?
32 years now.
32 years in the game, right? That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Long time. I'm sure you had things come at you, lawsuits, people came, with a target on behind your back. Did you ever get phased? Like you ever get freak out and like, oh my God, you're unfazed? Like, are you cool, calm, collective all the time like you are now? No.
No, I'm unfazed every day. It's just, are you going to deal with it? There's fears every day. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody doesn't have fear every day. Like, what could happen to this? I got this problem. I got to fix this. I can't think of a night I go to sleep without thinking about something I need to, work on,
Yeah.
And that fear and anxiety is, a lot of people portray that they never have it. It's just, how do you cope with it?
Sure.
We're humans. So being humans, we're driven by fear. We'll do more to avoid pain and fear than to gain pleasure as humans, right?
That's insane.
It's true, right? Like, fear motivates you.
Yeah. Well, me and my wife are opening a business right now, and this is it's huge. It's a big investment for us, and she's so fearful at times, and sometimes she's good and I'm fearful. But like, yesterday I was interviewing a gentleman, and he owns a bunch of rehabs, and he's like, dude, like you said, fear is something you should use as as energy, but try to do more faith-based versus fear.
Yeah.
Operate a fear system. Faith system.
Yeah. It's just with fear, the best way to overcome it is to accept in your mind what the worst case scenarios can be and say, okay, well, if that happens, we'll be all right, man. That gives you some solace, but the biggest thing to shift your fear mentality is to take drastic action, schedule it, but also keep really on your physical well-being too. Because yesterday, for example, I was having a big stressed out thing going on in my head. And I'm like, I'm just going to go run, man, for like 30 minutes, man. So I just ran around the park for 30 minutes. And after, I felt 90% better. And I thought a lot of the solutions while I was just looking at the birds and the ducks, man. And that's why a lot of times I like to spend time alone. I tell people you should eat at least one meal a day alone. So you can contemplate what's going on and who you are,
I agree with you 200%. I'm the same way. Like lunch, I like to have lunch by myself. Typically, if unless it's a business lunch, right? It's different. But typically, I'm like you. Like, you have to have one. I honestly, I think I like to be alone a lot of times, even though I'm an extrovert and a lot of friends and family and stuff. But like I think alone time is very important.
It is.
Yeah. Then I talk about your routine, man. Like I said, once again, God bless you. You look amazing. Like, how do you stay good shape, and what's your routine?
So the big thing is diet and exercise for physical. I just limit the amount of sugar consumption and carbohydrates. You can have some. You can eat a donut once in a while. That's fine. But for the most part, like 80% of your diet, 90% should be, I eat clean grass finished meats and pasture raised organic eggs and stuff like that, Sometimes a binge, that's fine. Try to get 8 hours of sleep as target. Doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'll stay up with my dogs and binge watch Netflix maybe once or twice a month. Bad for you, wrecks your sleep cycle. But I don't know. Dogs want to watch TV. You want to watch TV, fine.
Right.
It's just like, forgive yourself and move forward, That's a big one. So if I can get up early, like 4:30, 5 a.m. and go to sleep, very early as I can, try to get 8 hours target, 7 hour minimum, then my sadness and my fear is a lot lower. Happiness is a lot higher. One thing too that I do is, and again, I'm not pushing religion on anybody, but in the morning, I just say a one sentence prayers and I thank God for the opportunity to hit it again. And at night, thank you for the opportunity that I had today. And please give me wisdom in my sleep. So I wake up with all the answers to some of the things I need to solve. And 90% of the time I wake up with the answers. So that's the physical, thing. Workout, heavy weights 3 days a week, not crazy like deadlifts or anything with like over.
You're lifting weights though, which is important. People don't understand how lifting weights is more important than you could go running is great, but lifting weights after 35, they say is super crucial.
Yeah, well, always important. Even when you're young, you want to look good, right? So, but then also moving 30 minutes a day, walking, jogging, swimming, whatever you're gonna do,
Just move. Just move.
Yeah. So that's the basic physical routine. What I like to do though, I have hundreds of employees, so you have certain leaders, right? And so you want to meet with your top leaders, your directs, at least once a week and have communication on what the problems they have, how you can help solve those things. And then you want to ask them to do that with the people that report to them, and then the people report to them. And that way everyone is communicating, because most problems happen because of lack of communication, and people are afraid to ask what to do. That's the human flaw. We just try to hold it in. So that's hypercritical for business to do that. But by no means do I think I have it totally dialed in. I got my own constant challenges, but everybody does. I mean, everybody has a hard time. It's like those people on social media that portray just the highlights of their life.
100%.
Trust me, they have probably 5 times more problems than they do highlights, right?
Yeah, that's why I love our. I mean, he's not my friend. I mean, but yeah, he's like a mentor, Sean Whelan. He shows a lot of his dark side too, right? Dark, behind the scenes. Are you guys good friends, you and Sean Whelan?
I've known Sean a long time. I remember though, I met him at the gym, right? And he was talking about, he goes, "Hey, I have these shirts," and he handed me one of these shirts, and I'm like, "That's a cool shirt, dude. I don't understand what the heck it means, man. What are you talking about?" And for like a year, I just left it in my closet, and it was, then he's like, "Dude, how do you think I could get better?" I'm like, "You got to go to scale, dude. Like, I mean, And so I talked to him like about a few weeks ago, and everybody knows he's got his own set of struggles.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of guys are feeling a lot of struggle right now because economic times, and it affects everyone's revenue line. So anybody who's denying that, unless you're in some special isolated field, that but economy is economy. And so I think he's a guy that's just trying to do it and be somebody. And his resilience, I think, is respectable. The big thing though that I always advise him and other guys, he's younger than me, is just check your ego, check it, because you can be confident and powerful, but you don't have to always be dominating. A lot of power is just in letting people do what they need to do. That's fine. And you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. I mean, if it's truly helping people, great. But a lot of times, all of us, including myself, sometimes, we get a little into ourselves, and as you get older, hopefully that evolves, because you realize it's kind of a waste of energy anyway to be too dominating, too alpha, whatever they call it, because like my wife says, you have to respect the feminine and masculine that's wired into all humans though. So you need sensitivity.
100%.
You need compassion, but sometimes you need massive aggression, that's a balance that everyone's got to figure out for themselves.
Good point. Well, that's a really good piece of advice you gave. And I mean, yeah, he's come a long way. I'm amazed by his story and what he shared on social media. And I even signed up for his coaching program. I haven't gone to his Lions Den thing, but I'm gonna go next year. And
Yeah.
with that being said, Dan, I'm gonna wrap it up. I know you're busy. So you do a prayer in the morning. Any other routine you have? You look at your goals in the morning or night. People have they do the affirmations. Anything else you want to share with the audience with a young entrepreneur or mid-level who wants to follow your
All your
footsteps?
goals need to be written down: physical, financial, spiritual. And it's not just be rich, be healthy, be close to God. You got to be very specific and break that down and actually have it written. Because if it's not written, it's not real, right? Then every day you need to schedule on your phone and your calendar the actions you're going to take to move towards that. Now, you don't have to have 100 actions, but I'd say at least one in each area. That's a big one. And then that'll help create discipline and habit. And if you have discipline and you're consistent with it, give it a decade or two, and you'll just be amazed in how you look and how you feel mentally and how much finances you have.
Yeah.
It's boring. You get rich, you get strong slowly and consistently. Overnight success is rare.
Yeah, I think that's what people think it's the way to do. But you're right. It's rare. Now you don't see as much, and if you do see, it doesn't last too long, from my experience. Jan, where can we find you?
Dan's Millionaire Code on Instagram. I ask people, because I don't sell courses or any of that. I'm like, if you want, you could subscribe to my Instagram page. It's like $20 or something. It's nothing. But the problem though is when we post public event, we did one and we had like 1,800 people show up.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. And we had like the capacity for 600. So I just say subscribe there and I'll send out where some of our free events are. And when we're at our events and we're not selling you anything, we really don't need your money. This is more to make us feel good about ourselves, to like try to help people. The residual effect though is people do invest a lot of money, because they've gotten some help. And so we don't even need to go over the hard ask, I think, because when people's lives get better, they're like, hey man, these guys, I trust them. And it takes a long time to build that trust,
Yeah.
But that's the best place.
So if I wanted to hire you to coach me, that you don't really do that one-on-one coaching, right?
I did it for absurdity. So people would be like, Dan, I want to hire you as coaching. And I'd be like, I don't have time for this. $5,000 an hour. And like, I had all these people, I was so booked up, I had no time. I'm like, $10,000 an hour. No time. 20,000. And then I raised it 50,000 an hour. And I had like 3 guys sign up for that. And I'm like, man, this is like still eating too much time, I just tried to make it so ridiculous. I wouldn't pay it. I wouldn't pay me 50,000 an hour.
Yeah,
right?
that's nuts, dude. Oh my
But
God.
what's crazy is some of these guys that paid that, they're like, dude, I executed. It's like 2 years later. And they're like, I've made like 100 times more back. I'm like, why? I go, did I teach you that much in an hour? And they're like, yeah, dude. And I'm like, what was it? They're like, you just told me to execute and stop feeling sorry for myself. And I'm like, okay, you did it, dude. You didn't even call me since then,
So my viewers and my listeners, you guys owe me 50K right now. So Dan gave away his secret that he helped other people who tripled 10x their money. It's just take action. Dan, is that what it is?
Take action, but don't take dumb action. Don't guess. You know how they say, oh, you have to fail to be successful? I mean, sometimes you're going to, make a mistake, but just talk to people who've been there before. Talk to old men and women and be like, hey, you ran this. What would you do? And they're like, do this. Okay.
Yeah.
You got to get your butt kicked less,
Yeah.
Instead of, I got to just figure it out for myself. Like my son told me that, like, when he was like in high school doing dumb things. And he's like, I just got to find myself, Dad. And I'm like, you are where you are. You could save time and ask old guys what to do. And you would save time and make more money and be stronger. Yeah, I got to figure out myself. And so he talked to me, a little while ago, and he's like, yesterday, and he's like, should have just listened to you on some of the stuff in the first place. But Dad, can you help me with this business idea? I'm like, okay. That's the natural course of life.
Is he doing well, your son? How old is your son?
27 now. Okay. Yeah, he's doing well. He buys hundreds of millions of dollars of components out of Asia, imports them and all that. It's awesome.
Interesting. That's the guy's good hustle. Awesome. Well, Dan, you're the man, dude. Not to sound corny. I appreciate you. Just want to say personally from me, you've directly have impacted my life in many ways. I love your content. Thank you for taking the time to doing this for me. I know you don't have to do this. I'm a small podcast that's growing my channel right now. Sean was the same way. Took some time out from me, and I appreciate it very much. My audience will text me after the interview and say, hey, that helped me. Thank you, KB. So Dan, we thank you here at Stroke of Success. And well, I plan to come to Utah to interview Sean. I'll call you, man. We'll be in town. Maybe we can do a face-to-face if you're available down the road next year or so.
You know what your secret was, by the way? I said no to you a couple of times.
Okay.
You asked me on Instagram and messaged me, hey, will you come on podcast? I'm too busy, bro. You come on to, but you kept bugging and bugging and bugging, and not in a mean way. You just kept bugging, and I'm like, this guy's like pretty freaking hungry, man. Most people will ask, like with sales, by the way, I know we're going on a tangent, but
no, please.
Customer will be like, oh, I got to think about it. There's too much money, or I got to talk to my wife, and they just stop. But I tell my sales guy, would your wife be concerned about, what we're selling here, or the money, or what do you think that she would be most concerned about? And they're like, well, probably because it's too much money, And I'm like, so you like what we're doing? And if we could save you some money, your wife might give you permission. Yeah. I'm like, well, what do you think she would need to be? Well, where do you think she would need to, where would need to be at for her to be cool with it? Here. I'm like, so if we can do that, you're good. Okay, let's get it done. Done. I mean, like, your persistence is amazing. So I think you should do a podcast about your persistence and how you got some of these people to come on your podcast that said no. You get a lot of no's, right?
A lot. Sean took me 6 months. Sean was a huge, big guy for a long time.
You could teach a whole course on like how to get over no.
Wow. That's
You're
a
good at
great
that.
idea. Well, thank you, Dan. That means a lot coming from you, from my friend. And that's now you coach me for free. Oh, Dan, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna think about that course, and I'll show you how it goes.
Yeah, your book, How to Get Over No, something like that.
I'm gonna write this down right now, dude. I'm getting free advice. How to get over no.
Yeah. Now the key is you got to do it. You can't be an asshole. Like you got to write that book. You got to write that course. You got to make those videos, and you have to make it available to people. And it's going to take you energy to do it. So don't be afraid to charge money for it, as long as it really helps people. And then farm testimonials of how it's changed people's lives, and like post that up. People can direct message them. Did that really work for you? Oh, dude, I'm closing twice as much selling cars or solar or whatever I'm selling,
So what was it? It's how to give me?
You'll have to watch the video again. My ADD, no, it's
Got
like how to get over no or something like that.
Okay, got it. I have it. I have ADD too. Same thing. So, oh man, Dan, this was worth every single penny. Thank you so much, Dan, for jumping on here. We'll do a part 2 down the road, man. God bless you, and thank you from us new entrepreneurs joining the world. You're an OG for us. So thank you, my friend.
Thanks, dude.
We'll be in touch.